from the very beginning shocked me about Aero was the fact that, it's obviously not cheap to do this. And I asked the CEO, how are you going to monetize this? How are you going to get your ROI? You don't make systems for cars for quadriplegics? And he's like, no, you don't get it, son. We didn't patent any of this technology. It's completely open source, and anybody that will use that technology to help people in any fashion, we'll just give it to them. The corporation from the top down is just that way about wanting to help people improve their lives through technology. That's just, in my mind, that's unheard of with $30 billion tech company, publicly traded. I've just never heard of that. So from that point on, I was all in. Yeah. Let's what do we do? How do we make this happen? We were preparing for the 2000 season and just crashed. Boom, big. 200 miles an hour back to the wall, blew apart my C3, C4 vertebrae, and was on a ventilator, and it didn't look good. So that was the racing career.
Yeah. Up until Aero.
Aero being a 80-year-old tech company, and began the journey. And so, but at that very first meeting, I said, look, this is going to take a lot of time and energy, and it's going to be fun and whatnot, but I have no interest in driving, 30, 40 miles an hour. I've been around Indianapolis at 225 miles an hour. I didn't really want to just go putt around, do nothing. So they took it serious, and, literally less than 8 months from our first meeting, they got it done.
Yeah.
So it's unbelievable. So that was just the start. The beginning of a journey now, 7 years in.
And at that point, the first Corvette.
We had it at Indianapolis in April for a test run. I think we went about 50 miles an hour that first run, and it was scary as hell. It didn't operate very well. The steering wheel was shaking, and the brakes were shuddering, and we knew we had a lot of work to do because the goal was 1 month later at the Indy 500 to drive 100 miles an hour. Then we went 150, then we went 200, and then we did Pikes Peak Hill Climb.
Okay, well, we'll come back to some of the sort of the evolution that took place between then and now, but I feel like we're sitting in this car, we're surrounded by sensors, cameras. I feel we've got to talk through how you drive this machine.
This last version is a much easier install, especially since I'm sitting on the right-hand side. It gives or the correct side, as you say. It gives a wider opportunity to mount the cameras, and therefore you need less of them. So we've only got 4 infrared cameras in front of me, and then on the glasses, there's dots, which the cameras read into, and so it's pretty simple. I just turn my head to the left, and the car turns to the left, go to the right, same thing, and then I've got the straw. It's a relatively standard sip and puff mechanism where I blow to go and I can suck to stop. You can reverse that if you prefer. Things have evolved, but again, to do the really high speed stuff that we're doing, this system works remarkably well because it's total redundancy and reliability, and then there's the opportunity for the driver to take over if he needs to, but we've never had that happen.
In the traditional driver's seat, you get a little better reaction time, a little better feel for what's going on. So in the event of an emergency, they have the stock system that they could take control with.
Sam is fully in control without the ability to grab a physical steering wheel or a physical brake. If for some reason a battery died or the system were to fail in any way, we still have our physical hard controls into the car and input. If at very minimum we can depress the brake and bring the car to a stop.
They just simply grab the wheel and grab the paddles and they take over. So it's very straightforward, and you can give it back to me as well by pushing a button. So
I can't overlook the fact that we have got the bonnet up here. So what is actually in here?
So the big system you see across the back, that's the drive-by-wire system. So that's what's going to be actually feeding the data into the pedals and the wheels. We have the camera computer that's processing what's coming off the camera. We have the sip and puff board, so it's a pressure sensor looking at the gas and brake angles.
What amazes me, because I don't know anything about technology, is how quick it is. and there's no lag whatsoever. It's just instantaneous. So
We have had many other people in the car driving as though Sam does, and there is a breadth of capabilities from just human nature. Some people are very good at it. Their brain is very easy to switch over and learn to drive this way, whereas others, they never quite catch on in the time that they're in the car. We need more than one person to do this, so we have our first go, but we also can learn and grow from others testing the car who otherwise aren't former racers.
You know, I think we're constantly looking at how we can simplify the solution so it can go in more types of vehicles and make it easier for other people to adapt.
Now, obviously, we've been talking about this all in the context of racing, but you are in a, I think, unique position to hold a license for road driving in the US.
Yep. I mean, again, through these years, we've just come up with what's the next goal? What's the next goal? What's the next goal? And through that process, we said, hey, wouldn't it be cool to get a driver's license? It's like a full silver moment.
With all this in mind, where does this lead you to think the technology should and maybe is going next?
I mean, number one, Aero is obviously a leader in innovation, technology, OEMs, and that kind of thing. So I think this showcases the fact that they can work with all of the OEMs as they progress in their search for autonomous vehicles and that whole situation. So they can be a supplier of need for that.
Okay, so with this in mind, Sam wants to retain as much autonomy as possible in his driving. You're sitting next to him just in case he doesn't have control. How does that?
We do work with the autonomous community a bit. As you said, you know, they're trying to take control away and give it to the car itself, where we're trying to put more drivers into the car and give more control to the driver.
For me, the conversation around autonomous vehicles has been that means to an end. It's been going from A to B, it's been going to shops and actually getting out and about. And I think what, as you really nicely highlighted, is that actually for a lot of people, it's not about the A to B. It's about you want to drive, you want to race.
Just bridge the gap, right? And I mean, I'm all for an autonomous situation in the sense that not everybody can afford a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 minivan, right, for their own transportation. But I'm not the type of guy that wants to drive a minivan. So
Yeah.
If there's an ability to go on an app via voice command and call up a vehicle that can get you to your son's soccer game or to work or to your doctor's appointment, I'm all about that. I just know it's not happening right now. But I think at least more important personally to me is how can we utilize this system or an adaptation of this system to get people with disabilities back to work? What are your goals in life? What do you need to accomplish them? What are the barriers? Is it transportation? Is it mobility? Is it technology? And let's break down those barriers. Let's make it more cost effective and get people out of the house and back into daily life. And so with our foundation in cooperation with Aero and everything else, I mean, that's really what we're working on in the States is, man, can we use this system to drive a harvester or to drive a forklift or something of that nature that will help people get back to work. That's kind of my personal goal as things have gone on. How do we improve lives? I was extremely fortunate to have great insurance, a really supportive family, the motorsports community behind me. Really wasn't without anything, right? But I know that's not the norm with people with disabilities. So,
and amazing that you mentioned a combine harvester. I mean, no word of a lie. One of my notes in here to ask you about was other forms of transportation that this kind of system could help people with.
Yep.
And I've literally written, I'll read this verbatim, I'm not kidding. Could the technology be put into other cars or vehicle types such as tractors, buses, or planes? Now, I'm guessing planes maybe a bit ambitious, I don't know, but
No.
amazing. But you mentioned combine harvester, and
to everybody else, this advancement in technology just kind of makes their life easier, you know what I mean, on a daily basis. But for people like me and others, we just need a purpose. We need a reason to get up. Maybe it's just as simple as putting getting your paycheck and putting bread on the table. But man, it's life-changing, and I've seen it work personally on so many occasions. So I guess if nothing else, it sort of re-inspired me, the capabilities that we have. They get me driving in 8 months. It's just kind of like, bam. I mean, it can happen if you get the right people in the right room and the right resources, and you're going to do it, and you got to set a goal, and you got to get it done. And so all of these things are just, an absolute dream come true.
And beating able-bodied drivers, as you said, like that is testament to the fact that the technology, your own determination and experience, it works. And I think that goes to show maybe that the technology can be applied effectively in a range of vehicles.
Absolutely. It can be applied to, like you said, airplanes and everything else. And so maybe we'll have to look at a jet next.
I've always wanted to do an interview in a car like this. I can tick that off the bucket list.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm quite brave enough to do it in a plane. I'll be perfectly honest.
Well, there's all these people going to the moon now, right? Or going to outer space. That could be kind of cool.
I would do that.
Yeah,
I want to be on Branson's
on the list
for that, yeah.
On the list.
Well, thank you so much
Right
for
on.
talking to me.
No,
it's
thank
been a
you for
great
your
pleasure,
time.
and what a brilliant experience to be in here and hear about your story from you.
This has been Technically Speaking, and I'm Nate Lanxon. And also, I don't have a driver's license. For more content like this, though, follow us on your favorite platforms.